Hey, let's say you get one of my assets, just like this one. This is the mineable rocks, and you only want to migrate the core of it, and that's in this example the mineable rocks. But if you look at our current use character, we're using all kinds of extra components. So you may wonder, why is that? How can I remove them, and how can I use them without it? Well, to know that, first I want to explain why these components are here. And it's basically to give you all kinds of useful things so you know what you can use, what you can delete, and how to migrate and integrate it to, for instance, your own inventory system, your own interaction system, etc. It is here to help you. So let me give you an example. Currently we have here these mineable rocks, and when we press play, we can first of all walk around, and walking around is listening to inputs. When we are walking towards a rock, we want to be able to apply damage to it, and by applying damage to it we need to have functionality for it to test it out, right? And if I press the left mouse button, oh, it's compiling the shaders, but if I press the left mouse button, you can see it is performing an animation, it is hitting the rock, and we apply damage to that rock, and the rock eventually spawns these meshes. So is it needed to use my combat system that I integrated within the system? No, obviously not. The only thing is I did it so you can see how it is able to apply damage. So if you apply damage yourself, it will also work perfectly fine. Another example is you probably want to be able to pick up these stones. And if you want to pick it up, first of all, we need to have an interaction system. So currently we are tracing. However, if you want to use your own interaction system, you can easily switch that out. And eventually, if you pick it up and press E, it's added to the inventory. Here you can see I have an example inventory for you. But if you have your own inventory, you could also change it. But if you think, oh, I don't need an inventory system, I don't want to apply damage, I don't want to play an animation, I don't want to interact with the rocks, that is all perfectly fine. But the core of this rock system, I assume you probably want to interact, you want to do something with it, like picking it up or whatever. And also trying to apply damage. So now what you see right here is we have all these components, but you probably only want this specific rock. So if we are navigating towards that rock here in these files, and if you press migrate, what we will see is it also will migrate a couple of things from a combat, from interaction, from equipment, for the foliage, for the spawning it in the world, the inventory, etc. And it might be overwhelming for you. However, it is here to help you. If you don't want it, we can deselect everything and only migrate what you think is needed. But my advice would initially be migrate everything and afterwards delete the things that you don't want or just leave it be. Let me give you an example. I've created another project, and that project is currently empty. I have a third-person template and some example things like my own inventory system, my own interaction system. We're going to migrate this towards that project, and then we're going to replace a couple of functionalities. So I have currently our mineable rocks project and a target project, which I will select. I'll select the content browser and I will select the folder. It will migrate all the packages towards it. And now I will open up my target project. And we now see this hyper folder with all these different systems, which you might think, oh, I don't want that. I want to use my own stuff. I have a folder here with my own stuff like crappy non-hyper combat system, crappy non-hyper interaction system, and a crappy non-hyper inventory system. However, first of all, make sure everything is migrated well, and I'm quite sure it isn't. because we didn't follow the migrate steps. I did it on purpose, but I know a lot of people don't read and just want to see videos. So here it goes. After migration, always check if it still works. And now, if we press play in this example map, we will get all kinds of errors. The reason why, because we didn't follow any migration steps. And we can see that really quickly if we click on any of these components, like this interaction system basic, you will see it has a lot of bad cast nodes. It is using functions that that's not able to find, etc., etc. And the reason is really simple, because we didn't read. And currently, this our project from My Mineable Rocks, it's using a couple of plugins. But how do you know which plugins is used for a specific project? And that is opening up the U project file. So whenever you have the source project, you can always right click, edit with a notepad, and then you see, hey, it is using a common UI plugin. So maybe let's do that. So let's go to our plugins, common UI, enable it, and restart. So now it's restarted, and again, we don't need the common UI plugin. We're just going to enable it temporarily because I am using it in my systems. But if you eventually want to cut everything out, it's perfectly fine. But first, make sure it's working on your target project. And I know it will still not work. And the reason why is because we didn't set any project settings like the interaction trace, because we want to be able to pick up that rock. However, for that we use an interaction trace. Well, let's assume you have your own interaction trace, etc. So you will see that this one requires physical materials, etc. But this is an impact master that is a part of the commit system. Apparently you don't want it, so then you don't need to fix it. If you want, then you need to fix these errors by simply setting up the service types in the project settings. So let's now try and play, and we will try apply damage. Well, it still applies damage. We don't see the impact because we didn't check that. But now we want to pick this one up. Oh, and that is working perfectly. So that is sufficient for now. So we see, okay, this is kind of working well, but you only want to use a couple of things. And as you see, I have used a lot. So now let's say you have your own project. It is third-person project. And this is your character. Left mouse button, it does some crappy damage trace. Pressing E, it does a line trace for potential interaction. And we also have an inventory component, which is working way differently than mine. And we can check, let's say this is your code. So this is a crappy non-hyper combat, non-hyper inventory, non-hyper interaction. You did some random code to execute it. And now you want to know, how can I use the mineable rocks only with my own system? So here we have our project, and let's add some rocks. So I've added 3 rocks, and now I'm going to press play, and I'm going to try and apply damage. But it isn't working. So how are we going to fix this? So this would be my suggested process. You can open up the thing that you try to apply damage to. Open up the master, because in the master we have all the code, and we see we are listening to an event point damage. Well, okay, let's check how our custom implemented combat system has implemented. So this is not mine, this is yours. And what you do is, I just apply damage, and apparently we are not listening to damage. So you can do 2 things, or you could change this to event any damage, or we could change your combat system to apply point damage. So I change this now to apply point damage. Why not? Whatever works for you, it's your own choice. And now we can check, is it working? So we see it doesn't work. So let's do a breakpoint. And let's also check our damage. And I already know this isn't going to work, but I'm just going to show you the bugs that you're going to encounter. So why doesn't it work? Well, because in your combat system, you probably are doing a trace to like a pawn or destructible. But now I use something different. I used a damageable trace in my project, but you are not. So if you open up this rock and open up the master and check this static mesh and check the collision settings, you see the object type is world static. And we were searching for pawns and object type damageable, but it isn't here. So let's change this rock to whatever object type you have to apply and filter damage to. So let's now say it's destructible. And we saw that in this combat system, I'm also trying to apply damage on destructible. Let me press play. And now you see it will trigger this event. So now we are triggering the damage. However, we see it is still not doing anything. Why? Well, if we look at this event point damage, you see I implemented something which is purely optional and you can change this yourself. I said I only want to be able to apply if you have a certain weapon type. Just like if it is a mineable rock, it requires a pickaxe to do damage. However, let's say you have your own system or you don't want this at all. Well, then you can obviously bypass this and simply don't check on equipment if you don't want to. And if you do want to and you have your own equipment system, well, then you do get component by class, get your own equipment manager, get the current equipment and do a Boolean check. Well, for now, let's bypass it because we don't want to use my equipment manager. And now try apply damage. And you see, it's still not working. So what is my next step? That is adding a breakpoint. Press play. And see what happens. Well, what happens is this is a supermaster abstract and this spawns an actual actor right here. And currently we are trying to switch that because this one is only a simple static mesh, but this is spawning another foliage type, and that's this one. So we can open it up, go to that master, and also here you see we do an event point damage, and we do a check on the equipment type. However, again, you don't want to use my equipment manager, so then we bypass it or implement your own equipment manager. So I bypass all of this like so. Press play and do damage. Oh, and now you see we implemented it with our own damage system. However, now we want to be able to pick it up. And you can see this is my own, this is your interaction system. And we are trying to pick things up. However, it is not doing anything. Why? Well, it's quite simple because in my interaction system listens to a trace, an interaction trace. And you probably have set up a different trace or whatever you desire. So what does that mean? That means currently in that item that's being spawned, we listen to an interface. However, that interface is not implemented. So let's check again the specific rock that we spawn. And you see that rock, it is spawning an inventory item, this BP, pickup, or iron. And this one is linked to my current inventory system. And if you don't want to use my inventory system, then it means that you need to change your own pickup item. So let's check how you could do something like that. Only the base principles. And you see, I use an OR to spawn. Okay, what does it mean? If we go to our master and we go to find OR to spawn. Okay, so now we have found a function spawn ORs, and it is spawning it on different locations, and it is spawning an actor. And if you have your own inventory system, you probably also have actors to spawn. Currently, this one is the actor type. So you can simply just select your own pickup, whatever you have for your own inventory system. So if you have done that, and let's say that this is your item, you probably have your own interaction system, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to pick it up. So let me go to my pickup master, and let's assume this is yours. Or if you want to use my inventory system, but you want to use your own interaction system, then you obviously need to change it. And currently, my interaction system is using an interface. Oh, that's implemented in this pickup abstract. So if we go to the class settings, oh no, it was in the pickup master. Yeah, here. I have an interface called BPI can interact and BPI interact. However, you have your own shitty interface. Sorry for the name. You have your own interface, and currently, when we try to find my interact code, that's this. You obviously have your own interaction event. Interact event. Ah, here it is. So you have your own interact event. You can just couple your own interact event to mine. However, but you see, I'm currently using a owning controller, and the reason why, because owning controller, most of the times, then you can get the character, get components on it, etc. And currently, on a pickup item, we say, hey, let's pick it up to our inventory system. And currently, I'm calling that on my own inventory system, but you want to use yours. So wherever your inventory is, let's do this really dirty. So you probably have your own character, whatever you have, and on that character you have a component. Get component by class, and you have your own inventory system. And in that inventory system, you probably have a function like add item or add to slot or whatever. It doesn't really matter. You just have your own function somewhere, and you want to call that. And currently, you want to call it on your own with your own interaction system, and you want to call it with your own inventory component. So it means that simply this component that I show here is just here as an example, so you know what to replace. So let's just delete this because you don't want this at all. You can just delete everything. The only thing is this is my inventory item, so this is my inventory system, but you probably have your own. And let's assume yours is being done with strings instead of structs for some reason. And if you have your own, you just connect your own inventory item, etc. Or it's spawning, you have your own interaction system. And now if we press play, if we do damage, and now we can try and pick it up. Am I hitting it? And I was not hitting it. Why? because you probably use a different line trace, a different collision channel. I use an own trace to say, hey, only block on interaction. However, you may say, I only block on visibility. Whatever you have implemented in your system, it doesn't really matter. Now I checked the visibility. So it's set now to the visibility trace, and now when it's falling, we press E in the upper left corner, we just see iron ore, iron ore, iron ore. So that's basically now you have your own character here, and you have your own combat inventory and own interaction system. You don't have any of my other components. When you checked in my current systems, you can check that, for instance, in this rock. You can check the master, and every time when we do a reference to my system, let's say inventory system, it is something that you can replace yourself. And I just show you the location really quickly, how you can replace it. So my advice would basically be go over all the components, all the code in the core thing that you want. And if you see some reference to one of my components that you don't want to use, then or you can bypass it, or you can delete it, or you can use your own. So these are your three choices. And basically, I already show you where you can do it and what, in my opinion, should be a logical choice. The next question would be, should I delete all the other things in the hyper folder? Well, basically, the only things that you currently now have is it's just a couple of kilobytes. It's just some code. My suggestion would be don't delete it. Just use it as reference code. Eventually, when you package it, etc., it will only use the things that you're actually using. So it is not really needed to be deleted. Everything is stuffed in the hyper folder. So just let it be. Okay. I hope this gives some insights on how you can implement your own systems. And how to consider which component should I use, which component should I replace, and how to find these things. If you have questions, please let me know, and I hope you have a great day. Congrats, you have reached the end of this video. And of course, always feel free to reach out, for instance, in the comments below via Discord or mail. And don't forget to check out our website and Discord. I'm happy to talk to you there. Have a nice day. Bye.